Hey guys, this is Steven here with another video on how to do some logic puzzles. This one's on a Yajilin. The rules state that you must draw a single loop through the grid that does not intersect itself. The line must pass through every white cell, and the numbers on the gray cells indicate how many black cells are in that indicated direction. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that black cells cannot touch one another orthogonally. And lastly, there can exist black cells in areas that don't have clues. So what I mean by that is this 4 says that there's going to be 4 black cells in this direction. But a black cell could also say exist here, where there's no clue indicating that that black cell exists there, but it's hidden or it will be discovered while you're doing the rest of the puzzle. So that's the one tricky part with these puzzles, that all the clues are not given from the start. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to try to solve this puzzle for you guys so you can see how it unravels and share some common tips and tricks that'll hopefully make it easier for you to solve these yourself in the future. So the first place that I start is going to be the corners. And the reason for that is I know right away there's going to be some white cells in the corners because we cannot create any dead ends or cul-de-sacs. So if we think about it, if I were to put a black cell in these spots, it would create this dead end, right? This loop, oops, sorry about that. This loop would come in and it wouldn't be able to escape. It's a dead end in that corner. So you can never have a black cell in one of those spots. Same thing down here, right? If we had a black cell there, the line would come down here and would not be able to escape. So what we can do is we can go around the grid and mark those corner spots as white cells. So the green dot just simply means that it is a white cell. And it's not just in the corners, but also the corners of a lot of the gray cells too. So again, if I were to put a black cell there, it creates that dead end where the line would come in and not be able to escape. So we know that if I were to, I'm going to put a black cell there just to illustrate the point that that would be a dead end. So we know that that's not going to be black. Same thing here. And so you can see all of these scenarios would create a dead end where you have this one-off stranded white cell, right? And that's going to be the case over here as well. So you can see a black cell can't go here because the line would come in and it wouldn't be able to escape. So for the sake of time, I'll speed it up. Now, it's not always the case that a black cell can't exist diagonal from a gray one, because here you could see it would work. There's enough space for the loop to come in and go around. But here, for instance, right, that wouldn't work, and here wouldn't work. So we can mark those. Black cell can't go there because that would create, again, a cul-de-sac or dead end, whatever you want to call it. Same thing there. All of those, because again, you'd have the loop come in and it wouldn't be able to escape. So hopefully I've made that abundantly clear, because that is a good starting point for these puzzles. Now, what I mean by elbows, I think of corners and right angles. Think about how the loop is going to go through this white cell here, right? There's only one way, and it's like that. I mean, there's no other way to do it. So this loop now has to escape, so it has to come down, and it can't turn right because it would close in on itself. You can only have one loop throughout the grid, so you can't have the loop close early, so it's got to come down. And we see whenever there's a white cell, that we've indicated, one of these green dots in a corner or a right angle like that, you can fill the loop segment there. So hopefully that helps. As far as other clues or other things to consider, is that there's going to be some passageways that exist, and a passageway is essentially a narrow gap. Like imagine if there's 2 black cells there and a narrow gap. The loop would have to shoot through there, covering those 3 cells. So I'm sure we'll come up with with a few examples of how that's going to be helpful. Another thing to consider is that black cells along the edge and one column or row in from the edge requires a spacing of 2. And what I mean by that is, if we look at this edge here and we put a black cell here, the spacing is, there's not enough space, right? If I put another one there, the loop can't come in and escape. But if they were spaced 2 apart, there would be, right? So whenever you're in the edge or one in from the edge, you have to have the cells spaced apart too. So here wouldn't work, right? It would create that dead end. So we know that that actually is a white cell. So that's helpful, hopefully. Another clue is that when it comes to the black cells, since they can't be adjacent to one another orthogonally, you can count the dominoes. And what I mean by that is, we look at this 4, right? There can be a black cell in one of these 2, but not both of them. So I count that as 1. I consider this domino as 1 cell for black. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because it can't be on the green dots. So we know we can actually fill in these, right? Because we know there can only be 1 here, 1 there, 2, 3, and the 4th one is going to be one of these. Now we don't know which one, so that solves this one, and so we know there's going to be no more black cells in this direction. So I can actually put all the dots there. And then same thing with this 4 going up, we're going to count the dominoes. So there can be 1 there in those 2, 1 in those 2, so that's going to be 2, and then there can only be 1 in these 2 and 1 in these 2. Well, that one's green. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4 dominoes, this one has to be black. So hopefully that makes sense. We've created a nice little right angle here, so we can go and fill that. Same thing with this one. So those have to connect. And here's a little passageway, right, with a green dot. So we know we have to shoot through there. Now this cell here, even though this is not a gray cell or a black cell, we've kind of created a little cul-de-sac here, right? I mean, how does a loop go in there and escape, right? Can't connect, can't intersect with the rest of the loop. So this has to be black. There's no way to get a loop in there. And that actually solves this one, right? If we look at this one clue going south, it says there's only 1 black cell, and we found it. So we can mark all the other cells white in that column. And we've created a little elbow here, a right angle, so we can solve that. Here's another one. It's got to turn down. And here's a passageway, right? We have a white cell between 2 black ones, so we have to shoot through it like that. And this has to turn. And here's a white cell in a corner, so we can kind of come down like this. Here's another white cell in the corner. Now this is an interesting one, right? So this, we can't put a loop segment there. We just can't, because if we turn here, we're going to close in on itself. And same thing here, if we turn down here, it'll close in on itself. So there's no way to put a loop segment there, and so that'll have to be black. And that's okay, there's no clue indicating there's a black in this row, but that's okay, because there's no possible way the line segment can go there. So we can indicate it there. And this is a bit of a passageway, it has to continue through. Same here, there's only one direction for this loop to go. What else? What else here? So as far as other clues that I have is, you can't have an odd number of loop ends in a closed area, or have a loop end that goes through 2 passageways. And I'll see if I can come up with a good example of that here. I think we might have an example. Oh, this 4 solved. 1, 2, 3, where do we place the fourth one? There's only one cell possible left. And then we surround it with white cells orthogonally, so we know that this one has to be white. So here's a passageway we have to shoot through, right? Two black cells with a white one in between, so we have to shoot through it. That's the corner we have to bend. And yeah, so here's an example of what I mean. I don't think this cell can be black. And the reason for that is we create two passageways, and what ends up happening is we'd have to shoot through both of them, right? And then this loop would come down, and this would be a stranded loop, right? Where does this connect? And so that's something to consider. Is it's not very often that you could create two passageways in a small area, because there's just not enough loop ends here. So black square has to go there. This has to go up. This can't connect here, so it's got to go up and bend. There's only one way there. This has to turn. Now, how do we get this white cell? There's only one way to get it. It's like that. This has to turn. All right, we're getting close. Okay, so here, this 3, we have 1. There's a domino, so there's 2. And then the third one has to go there. And then we've created a nice little corner there. Feel like we're getting close. So there's got to be 1 here. Maybe 2 in this direction, 2 in this direction. So it's either going to be here or here. Let's think about this one. Yeah, I think if I go here, this is a passageway. It has to shoot through. Right? Yeah, and then I leave a stranded cell here. Yeah, so that's another good example of a loop end going through two passageways, right? So if I put that there, I basically created two passageways, and there's one loop end, right? This loop end can't go through both passageways. So that has to be white, and this has to be black. There we go. And this is the passageway that has to shoot through. This has to come up like that. Okay, we're getting closer. This 2 now is very limited. There's only this one cell left to have the black square, so that comes around. This can't close in on itself, so that has to turn. Let's see. What am I missing? Oh, this 2 here. So there's only one cell left for the black. There we go. And then this loops around like this. Now this cannot turn up like that because then we strand this cell. There's no way to get to that one. So what ends up happening is we have to go like this, and that's a black cell. Now there's no clue that that's a black cell, but there's no other way around it. And then same thing here. So you might say, well, you could connect like that, but then this would have to be a black cell, and you can't have two black cells next to each other. What ends up happening is this is a white cell. You have to go through there, and this is the black cell. And that's okay. Again, we've not broken any of the rules or any of the clues. Now this 4 is not solved yet. We got 1, 2, 3 black cells. There's only one left. Must be there. Created a little corner, so these have to connect. That has to be white because it's, again, you can't have two black cells next to each other. So there's no way of getting to this cell, right? It's a dead end. So that has to be black. Perfect. This connects. And there we go. So if you follow your eyes with this, this is one big loop. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I enjoy these. They're tough. I will admit this is probably one of the puzzles I struggle with. I've done a lot of different logic puzzles, and this is one of the tougher ones. So anyways, hope you guys have a good night. Thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe for more in the future. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.